In this video I'm going to show you something called a loop, which basically is a iteration for as many times as something is true. So if we want 4 elements, it's going to go 4 loops, for 4 times. And you know iteration from Scrum that you've been taught as well. So an iteration is just one time around and one time around, one time around, and so on and so on. The first one I'm going to show you is called a each loop. And what we can use with this, we can actually use this together with what we have up here, a map, so a SASS map. So I'm going to show you that one first. I'm just going to delete the one I created in the last video, so with the time and the else if statement. First things first, we need to create a map of this sort. I was just about to call it map, but I don't want it. I want to call it h size. And I'm going to use the h size because I want to create something for my headers. And in this one, I just create a standard map that we've been creating so far. And I'm just going to put in h4. That needs to be 20 pixels. And remember to separate this by comma, not a semicolon. And I want h5 to be 16 pixels, comma, h6. And I want that to be 14 pixels. So these values are the ones I want to be using in my loop. And loop again goes round and round and round. So like we did before with a lot of these, we use the @ sign many times because then the system knows we're trying to do something weird. So we start with the @ and then we are going to create a each, and it's the first one. If you just type E, at least on my system it is. We don't need the parentheses in this one, so just type each, and then we're going to be using 3 variables here, and we have one already. We have the h size, which is going to use, but before we do that, we are going to create a new one. And I'm just going to name this item, because in a moment you'll see what that actually does. So just type item, colon, comma like this, space, and then you type another one, call it size, because we want to extract the size of our different h1, h4, 5, and 6. We want to extract the size of those. So variable size in, and then in means that in what of these maps we're using. So in case we want to go into this specific map that is called h size, and we want to extract the 3 different ones in here. So we need to just take the name up here. You can copy it like I did, like this, and put it here. So the last part over here is the name of the map we created. This here is what we're going to call each of our printed out pieces of data. So I'm going to use size to print out 16 pixels, 20 pixels, and 14 pixels. It hopefully makes a little bit more sense once you see the code. For this to work, what I'm going to do is what I'm going to ask the system to do. So I'm asking it to create, if you look at the start sheet before, I want you to create basically something similar to this. So an h4, h5, h6, and then only put in the size for each of those. So how do we do that? We need to, of course, first extract the name. So we need to extract the h4 or h5 and h6. And we can do that by typing in, if I can hit the right spot, oh, sorry, not there, like this. I'm going to use the mouse now. We just use the hashtag first, like we would on an ID, and then we do curly brackets, and then we punch in our items here. I was about to forget it. So our item, which will be the name, h1, h4, h6, and so on. So each h here is basically what this means. So that's the first part. Now we're going to tell what it's going to print out. And in our case, it's going to print out the font size of something, right? Because that's what we wrote. This is a font size. So font size in our case, and then the size, because that's what we used up here. So size, those two are the same, and they come from here. 20, 16, 14, and the reason they come from this part is because h size is the name of the map. So here we're actually telling for each item, so for each, this is an item, this is an item, this is an item, and so on. It could be called elements, it could be called h's, whatever. The naming part is up to you, as most of this is, but make it something that gives sense to yourself. And then we have size, that's this part up here. We are declaring here, go grab the information here. So the key and the value, and we're grabbing the value of each of these, and again, just from where we do it. So if you wrote this correctly, you hit save, you go to your styles, and it should say like this. So now you can see I have an H4, H5, and H6 that prints out three different values to these. And this is again a hopefully simple version of a loop that's called an each.